As we come back fully into the room, gently hold your intention in your heart and mind. And take how you might answer these questions. What is joy for you? And what does it mean to you? Whatever feels good for you in this moment. So in a few minutes we're going to sing a song, I Choose Joy. The first line of that is, when the walls come tumbling down, I choose joy. Yeah, in my talk last week, I focused on the art of letting go. It seemed very timely, this theme that we had set 3.5 weeks or so before the walls came tumbling down in my house, and I really had to surrender control like this. And yet, on Tuesday, when I was talking with Roger about what I wanted to tweak for this week's message, and I went through the litany of the things that were up for me. At one point, I just put my head on the table and said, "Oh, such is life." And that helped us think of the beautiful John Denver song that we've sung here before. All this promise, all this pain, all this joy, all this sorrow. And so what does it mean to let go? And what does it mean to choose joy? The litany has continued. And yet, as I said in my welcome, the gift to me, the push for me, is to show up and remember to believe the words that I say each week. To lean into the inspiration that I receive from listening to the voice of God as He, she, they speak in my heart and through the voices of the people in my life. I choose joy. One of the lasting gifts of my first year at One Spirit, when we learned about the world's wisdom traditions, is this sense that the truth is the truth is the truth. In that context, it was a reminder that underneath the various expressions of religious practices and beliefs is the profound truth that we know we are one with God. Whatever that unnameable, ineffable presence is, we are sparks of something eternal and ineffable and divine. We carry the seeds of the whole universe within us. In another context, I love when I find the same concept shared from many, many different places. And this week was I Choose Joy When the Walls Are Tumbling Down, the song that Roger mentioned. One of the spiritual practices that I found in my post-divorce life is a movement practice called Nia, where the foundational principle of that is I choose joy. It's the reminder that no matter how my body might feel limited or limiting, I can choose joy. And that joy radiates then out through my body, my mind, and my spirit. One of the foundations that brought me back to remembering I choose joy. Henry Nouwen. Roger sent me a beautiful little blip on Instagram that sent me to Henry Nouwen a search for the longer version of this. Same as happiness. We can be unhappy, but joy can still be there because it comes from the knowledge of God's love for us. Joy does not simply happen to us. We have to choose joy and keep choosing it every day. It is a choice based on the knowledge that we belong to God and have found in God our refuge and our safety, and that nothing, not even death, can take God away from us. And here at Unity is that depth of understanding. Nothing can take God away from us because we house God in us. The Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu, going back to this book this week was like visiting old friends. I talked about this book in December. The spirit group that I was invited into, we read it. I know other spirit groups have read it. I read it 5 years ago, and every time I come back to it, even if I am just looking through it for, please, beautiful teachers, give me something. Give me something, because I'm not surrendering so well here today. They never fail. So if you haven't read the book, highly recommend it. I'd give you my copy, but there's lots of pen marks in it. So one of the things that I loved about this book is that they name and describe with great compassion for their own humanity and ours the ways that we shut ourselves off from accessing that deeper underpinning of joy. The joy that is available to us when we're open, that is beyond the external circumstances that we find ourselves in. These obstacles may sound familiar to you. Maybe you have felt them. Fear, stress, and anxiety. Frustration and anger. Sadness and grief. Despair. Loneliness. Suffering and adversity. Illness and fear of death. Different times in our life, or different days in our week, or even different moments in our day, we each face these obstacles to some degree or another. I may not envy my neighbor's car or house, although I do kind of envy their plumbing right now. Oh, I wish I could do such and such as well as so and so. At times, we may feel completely overwhelmed by the magnitude of our worries about the bigger world. There's plenty to worry about. Or our close-to-home concerns. Some of us have felt the crushing weight of grief. And we may intellectually understand that death is a part of life, but then a moment comes that forces us to go beyond an abstract understanding or of fear to the sudden and unavoidable reckoning with our own mortality or that of someone we cherish. But those obstacles are not the last word. The beauty of the teaching of the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu are these 8 pillars of joy. Gifts that are present always, as present as our obstacles. And sometimes they're the paradoxical flip of the coin. So here I found the reminder that our way to joy is not through denying or eliminating the real stuff we're going through. But we have to find a way to take the God view, to take the longer perspective that last Sunday I found really easy to do. I wasn't joking when I said about the art of letting go is that gift of perspective, even though by Monday night I was in tears, sobbing at my mom and dad's house when the news came of the unanticipated, lovely visit that brought COVID as well as a joyful catching up of old friends. Lost it. But the way to lasting joy begins, as the Dalai Lama reminds us, with a shift from myself and the you-know-what that felt like it was weighing on me, from myself and my own concerns, and outward to others, from my own despair or frustration to recognize the compassion I need to view the suffering of others. Not to deny that what I'm going through, what any of us are going through, is real or frustrating. But recognizing that I am not alone gives me a chance to say, it could be a lot worse. I am not alone. I'm walking with other people who are also suffering in their own flavor. And together, that is the birth of compassion when we recognize that. We're all connected. As we breathe into the empathy and compassion that these two beautiful souls personify, then we can open our hearts to grip this week. Why be unhappy about something if it can be remedied? What is the use of being unhappy if it cannot be remedied? I don't say that lightly. Oh, no, I didn't make it up. I took that right from the book. But acceptance, as they talk about it, is not denying. It's actually the opposite of resignation and defeat. It's accepting reality, all while fully engaging with those things in our own world and in the larger world that call out for change. No one could deny that these two men have been incredible activists for peace, and they have suffered so much in their own lives, and yet their ability to turn that outward, to accept the reality while working for the change, is what keeps them going and gives us this model, gave me a model. Acceptance, whether we believe in God or not, allows us to move into the fullness of joy, to see clearly, and to respond appropriately to all we face. Again, not my words. This is that deep, deep wisdom from these two beautiful teachers. Perspective, humility, humor, the acceptance of that which is. That is the place where change begins, our own change, and the changes that we long to see in the world. So when we fill ourselves at the well of these qualities of mind and the qualities of heart, of forgiveness that frees us from the past, the forgiveness I needed to recognize that this lovely friend of my sister's who came to visit, give me a break. She didn't come knowing she was bringing COVID with her as a house gift. There was nothing to forgive. And yet forgiveness was mine. Because otherwise I was holding resentment unnecessarily in such a petty way, born out of my own frustration and worry and fear. Gratitude, compassion, generosity. Once again, we come to what are the practices that help us fill our wells, that help us find enough space to witness the mental habits, the habits for me this week of blaming, of complaining, of feeling the frustration overwhelm my ability to dance with whatever I was looking at. We have way showers. Jesus, Desmond Tutu, the Dalai Lama, Henry Nouwen, each other. The practices that we do on a daily basis, meditation, walking in nature, looking at the eyes of a beloved pet or a beloved friend. They're way showers that point us towards choosing joy. But it's up to each of us to make the choice. last Monday, the tears were cleansing tears. I'm not even saying it's a wrong thing to cry when the moment hits us and the walls have tumbled down, the literal and or figurative walls. Sometimes tears are cleansing, like the rain that we've been gifted with here and there this week. And yet, I needed to take that deep breath. I had a good talk with my mom and my sister. I gained a deeper perspective. And then I could lean again into gratitude. Not only for the ways that it isn't worse. Everything that I'm dealing with right now is fixable, not fatal. And so I know when I hit those moments in my life when the reality will be even more challenging. Those losses that rock our world, the practices keep me coming back to being able to say, yes, I choose joy. I can lean into gratitude. I can lean into the grace that is all around me. I can lean into the joy of knowing I am one with the divine. Doesn't change any of the issues in my house. It doesn't change how long it will take for anybody to recover from COVID. It doesn't take any of that away. Doesn't make world peace happen like this. Doesn't make the floods in Kentucky get cleaned up quicker. But it changes my response. And it then lets me show up in the world to make whatever difference I can make for any of those things. And that, I think, is all we can ever do. To show up, to be joyful, to be welcoming, to step into serving each other. The beautiful words of who we say we are. Beautiful. I am so glad I said yes to the beauty of who this community is. You are such a gift to me. So I invite you to consider this week, in your own practices, what helps you choose joy? Can you see your obstacles to joy in a new light, or with a longer God view perspective? Are there people in your life or spiritual practices or sacred spaces like this that give you the spaciousness to say, I surrender to joy. I surrender to peace. I surrender no matter what. And I'll leave you, as I always like to, with a poem that is a prayer. And Heather, I think you shared this with me back in the day, after I first talked about joy. Created for Joy by Hafiz. I sometimes forget that I was created for joy. My mind is too busy. My heart is too heavy for me to remember that I have been called to dance, the sacred dance of life. I was created to smile, to love, to be lifted up, and to lift others up. O sacred one, untangle my feet from all that ensnares. Free my soul, that we might dance, and that our dancing might be contagious. So in that spirit of contagion, may we find strength in each other so that we may choose joy. And may our joy be contagious. And so it is. Amen.